From a revered hero to one of the biggest cheats in sporting history. When Lance Armstrong was stripped of his 7 Tour de France titles because of doping, it was an epic fall from grace. Now the story of his cycling reign and shame has been made into a crime thriller by Stephen Frears, with the villain played by Ben Foster. I caught up with them in Paris.
I just love to ride my bike.
No longer confined to Earth, now we had learned to fly.
Stephen Frears, hello.
Hello.
The film remains quite mysterious still about the person, Lance Armstrong.
Well, he is complicated, isn't he? Because he won't come clean about himself. He hasn't really acknowledged his crimes fully. So he conceals himself because he doesn't want you to see the truth.
And so that was sort of a conscious decision then to kind of not go into his personal life?
No, but now when you say it, I think that's what must have been going on.
I've never tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs. I've never tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs.
Do you think he was totally bad, or he is totally bad?
Bad? What does that mean? Like a bad guy, like a cartoon?
You tell me, what do you think of him? What was your version of Lance Armstrong then, after studying him so much?
My version of him is the way that I view anybody, which is, it's really complicated being a human being. Like, I'm not just an actor. You're not just a journalist. He's not just a cameraman. We're complicated people. And unfortunately, people like to say good or bad, because it's easy to be like, good guy, bad guy. But he's not. He's a guy that raised $500 million for cancer research. He's a guy that faced death and used his power to do good. But he had to protect that good by destroying people's lives. I mean, that's complicated stuff. I don't think anybody's, I guess that's why I like my job. I imagine you like your job, is we're like, why?
So how hard is it, though, to play a character that most people hate?
Well, I can't really think in those terms. I mean, that's the first thing, is like, wow, he's disliked by a lot of people, but he also has a lot of supporters. The game then becomes, how can I rationalize it? And that's really exciting to do. That's really exciting to spend time to say, like, how do you ruin people's lives? And then what does it feel like to actually make a difference in thousands of people's lives? I've been touched by cancer. I mean, my family has. I've lost family members. When you see it up close, and so many of us have, I don't think that was bullshit. I think he really wanted to do good, and no one's raised that kind of money. It's so complicated.
Dr. Ferrari made a statement about EPO. Do you remember that?
No.
He's about to be tried for criminal conspiracy.
I think the judges and the prosecutors should pursue everybody, no matter who they are, because that's their job.
And the Lance Armstrong scandal was massive, and so many people were involved.
Yeah.
In making this film, how free did you feel? How free were you?
I was as free, I was completely free, except every now and then my lawyers, the lawyers on our side, would say, look, you can't do that because of this and this and this. But it wasn't very considerable.
I mean, it's not an old story. Obviously, the main character is still alive.
Yes.
Were there things that you felt you had to leave out?
No. Well, the UCI, which is the body that runs cycling in Europe, they've never lost a court case for some reason or other. So if you went near them, and I suspect you do need to go near them, our lawyers would get nervous.
So what were the key parts of the story for you that you wanted to keep in?
That he took drugs, and this is how he took drugs.
And did you have a chance to talk to Lance Armstrong?
No. Why would I want to talk to him?
Well, why wouldn't you?
Because he's a liar. I mean, that's given. One of the things he did was he told lies. Why would I want to talk to a liar? And I prefer, anyway, to use my imagination.
He's a man transformed. He's recovered from cancer and turned into bloody Superman.
What about playing someone who's still alive? How difficult is that?
That was, that's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable playing someone who's still alive. And I reached out. He didn't want to talk with me. And I don't blame him at all for not wanting to talk to some actor, being like, what's it like being you? And I'd want to punch a kid out who would ask that, and I fight back. So it's his life is still, his story's still happening.
If he's cheating in the races, then he's cheating on us as well.
I will not be brought down.
Why was Ben Foster the right person to play Lance?
Well, he's just very modernist. He's very American, sort of fanatical, obsessed, crazy. He's wonderful.
And he actually looks quite like him.
It looks like him, yes.
Was that important for you?
Well, it didn't. It helped. If you'd had a fat actor, well, no, he did actually lose weight. But I mean, all you're trying to do is to make somebody believable. And I believed in him.
Background action! And action!
So physically, how did you train? How did you get ready for the part?
We had a very short amount of time. We didn't have a script when the job came in. Stephen said, keep yourself available. So I'm not good sitting around. So I made some arrangements and used a few friends to set me up with a team down in Colorado, the tour of Colorado, and embedded with a team. And ended up talking my way onto the bus and then meeting person after person, started meeting people who had ridden with him and knew a lot about him. And then I started meeting his mechanic, his nutritionist. I found the guys who actually had his aerodynamics in a computer. So we were able to bring that to once I was hired for the job, and we had 6 weeks to actually learn how to cycle, which was kind of a disaster at the beginning. And then shaped my body to him. So it was as to the millimeter his positioning on the bike is my position in the film.
Go on then, tell me why it was a disaster in the beginning.
Well, imagine being 30 pounds overweight, riding at altitude, having never been in clipless shoes, in front of the top team, Chris Froome, walking by, and I'm trying to, and they were laughing at me. They were like, this guy's gonna be Lance Armstrong. They were like, oh God. And I started getting sick because of the altitude, and I was so not fit at the time. I got stuck in my shoes, couldn't go any further, couldn't breathe, landed on the bars, which just makes you want to throw up. The bike crashes down, and then I skidded down a hill on the bike in front of the top riders in the world. So that was, that's how I started.
Well, I bet they're not laughing now. You did it, didn't you?
I haven't seen it yet. I'll wait. We'll see.
And it was here in France that the light shined most brightly on Lance Armstrong because of the Tour de France. I mean, you're promoting it here in Paris. What's that like?
I'd be lying to say I wasn't apprehensive. The Tour de France belongs to France. The world has embraced it, but the Tour de France is France's. So to come portraying, I think I don't think it's a super friendly portrait, but it's at least somewhat compassionate towards him. It asks questions rather than damns him, bad or good, right? Of the American that, in some people believe, stole it. Yeah, I'm apprehensive about it, because I also think, like, well, he also won it in that era.
He wins and he celebrates, he meets the president, he gets more sponsors, more money, more fame. The man is a cheat.
And as a director, you're tricking us all the time.
Permanently. I'm completely untrustworthy.
But with the way that you make films, you have to make a good film. I mean, is there any way that you can identify with
Lance?
With Lance
Do
Armstrong?
I think of myself as well, he was rather better at it than I am. No, but I understand that it's all to do with illusion. I mean, I don't know anyone else who's as clever at being corrupt as he was.
Acting is also a very competitive business. Not always getting the role that you want. Have you ever cheated to get a role, or can you see the motivation behind maybe having to do that?
I don't know how you cheat to get a role, but I'm interested. If you have any tips, there are a few things that are floating around that I'd like to do. How about this? I didn't get this job. I was 16, and there was a script called Requiem for a Dream, and I was going to meet Darren Aronofsky, and the role was playing somebody who was in his early 20s, and I looked like a baby. And I really wanted to do this. Jared's, the role Jared got. I was living in the Valley at the time. I was new in California from Iowa, small town. And I got the idea that I was going to change the way that I looked. So I went to the supermarket. I got black dye, dyed my hair really dark. And I did my eyebrows, and I looked like Groucho. And I was like, you look like Groucho with like really, it was terrible. I looked like child Groucho. So what hits me is that I've got to do something else to take away from the eyebrows because I can't get them off. They're so thick. I took a razor and cut into my eye, right up here. You can still see a scar up there because I thought that I'd redirect his attention. So I cut and made myself bleed here and here. So in the meeting, I don't think I've told him this. I just ran into Darren the other week. I got to tell him this story. Yeah, I came to him and he's like, well, how you doing? I said, well, you should see the other guy. You know, did a terrible read for him. Yeah, that's probably the dumbest thing I've done to not get a job.
He will attack anyone who steps out of line.
I have the money and the power to destroy you.
Your next project is a film starring Meryl Streep.
Yes.
It's about Florence Foster Jenkins, an opera singer in the 20s who couldn't sing.
It's about the worst singer ever to sing at Carnegie Hall.
And there's a French film, a new French film that's out called
Yes,
Marguerite, about the same character
Yes.
but brought to France.
Basically, if you're not making a film that 3 other people are making the same film about, you're in trouble.
Why do you think there's such interest in her all of a sudden?
Well, I can't tell you. I just simply read a script and said, this is wonderful. But I don't know what the... if you're saying there's something in the air, I don't know. I mean, I remember when I made Liaison Dangereuse and Miloš Forman made Valmont, you know, that there was this very successful play which drew everybody's attention to this great French novel. But I don't know why there are these 2 films.
All right, Stephen Frears.
All right,
Thank
good
you very
luck.
much. Good luck.
Inside each and every one of us is something more potent, more powerful than any drug. It's called the will to survive.